If you are listening while driving, be watchful and mindful. A Little Taste of Everyone. Novella written by Zachary Cooper. Developed for Lit2 Animate.
Prologue. A woman exploded through a thick door, her success surprising even her. The contradictions of her recent scenes were severe and hard for her muddled mind to register. She escaped from a dungeon of concrete and blood which in her mind was where she was surely going to lose her life. She hit the door with her shoulders multiple times. The exertion dried the moisture in her mouth as though it fueled her strength alone. She lost count of the slams she endured to free herself. The air was so much fresher up here it was invigorating. The absurd change of scene in which she found herself smelled of lemon cleaner, compared to everything else she just left down below, the boundary of her cage not far away. The floor in front of the door was so slippery that she lost her footing as soon as she found it and she hit her head against a nearby wall. She was surprised that she barely felt a thing against her thick skull. Not long ago, she would have thought that the minor pain of a bruise on her forehead was only a worry that her bangs wouldn't hide it. The thought made her giggle at the absurdity of that now. The stump caused her to bite her tongue, the coppery taste of her blood flowing into her mouth. Everyone's tasted their blood before, but for some reason, it was more sensational now. She didn't want it all over her face, so she tilted her head back to let it fall down the back of her throat. The taste of her blood lightly lining her mouth tasted more of something salty than of something taboo. A modern world was around her that she believed she wasn't worthy of seeing again. She looked back and forth down the hall of an immaculately clean house. How long had it been since she even opened that door? 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 10 minutes. The pain in her shoulders was nothing compared to the refreshing feeling of being free. The seconds it would take to stop for a drink in the kitchen close by meant the difference between freedom or being caught. Wondering if she was truly free, she turned to see a front door of a regular suburban home and walked towards it, fixed in her sights and only yards away. She hesitated in rushing toward it, the fear of looking through the small square shape of glass at her height and seeing another person about to enter, would end her. Hesitating for a couple of seconds, she glanced back at the thick door, wondering how such a place could be hiding in a normal house. Since her mind was elsewhere, she hit her hip against a table along a wall. The table screeched along the hardwood, the new markings out of place on the robustly waxed floor. Bumping it caused her to stumble to the floor in front of it. Using the table to prop herself back to her feet, her mind was so jumbled that she nearly passed her wallet and phone sitting on it. That jolt to her hip woke her up. Walking out of the front door now would be considered suicidal. Instead of taking the fearful steps towards the front door, she looked back towards the kitchen. Grabbing her personal items, her feet flew across the hardwood, nearly slipping again, and in seconds she was in a modern kitchen decked out with the finest of stainless steel appliances. Black and white tile lined the floor, bright white colored cabinets were all over, and a door was against another wall near a carpeted living room. Her head looked sharply from side to side, expecting monsters to jump at her from any corner. She walked slowly, her head snapping around every couple of seconds. The couch that was so inviting would trap her, the recliner that would swallow her if she sat down, and if the stove beeped in the kitchen behind her, she would jump out of her skin. A back door was against a wall between the kitchen and living room. Slowly she walked towards it. Turning the doorknob, it wouldn't budge. Was it locked? Oh right, a headache pressed again against her skull, trying to remember the mundane. She unlocked it from the inside, opening it as quietly as she dared. Her heart stopped in her chest as she was sure she heard the front door open. She slowly opens the back door, willing there to be no hinge screech or crack of the floorboard calling out her escape. The door did not betray her as she walked through it and closed it again slowly and quietly. She crawled under any window she comes close to on the way around the house, not daring to look inside in the fear of seeing another. She heard nothing within the house, nor any doors open or close. She ran as quickly as her legs could carry her. She willed herself not to breathe in the cool night air until she was a block away, in the fear her deep breath would give her away. The outside air flows through the hair on her head like she was flying. She must have escaped. This isn't something you'd imagine. The cool night air, the few people walking by, casually walking their dogs. The dogs gave her a wide berth, as did the people, but there were interactions and smiles of real people. Unable to go home, she dreamed of places to go and be safe. Her car was at work locked up with her keys inside the donut shop. That was also a dangerous place to go back to. She also didn't want to get friends in trouble in case she was followed in some way. She pressed the power to turn on her cell phone, but the screen wouldn't flash to turn on. It had been a while since a charge. She knows a local dive bar she sometimes went to. After work where no one knows her, she'd take that chance. She was surprised that she was able to run the whole way there. The recognition from the bartender was comforting as she sat down. She started with a glass of water. Her tongue didn't seem to hurt anymore from her biting it. She switched to beer to get something in her stomach, but nothing filled it or quenched her thirst. It was getting late and she was getting tired. Some guy helped her to his car offering to take her home, but she declined and kept walking. She wandered a while longer downtown, getting lost in the crowds. It was after midnight. The busiest crosswalk came up with a dozen people walking one way and the other than one tall man standing still at the other end of the street. She feels as though he was looking only at her. When everyone crossed, he didn't take a step, he just stood there. People from the other side passed her and she stopped nearly in the middle, realizing the man still stood on the other side. She turned back towards the street that she just passed and kept walking. She could swear that she heard a large person's boots step on the sidewalk behind her. She walked until she heard no other patrons of the night, other than the boots behind her that followed her for blocks. She dare not turn around. She walked and turned left a few times to walk the perimeter of a building. She lost them, not hearing the boots behind her for the last block. Where would she be safe? It had been enough time. She could go to a friend's place, but without her phone, she doesn't even know where she is, or remember their address. Without her phone, she wanders around longer on the streets, continuing to empty.
1. The younger one. A dance studio side door slams open, freezing the immaculately dressed people within.
Shut up, I am here.
A gorilla of a man calls out as he drags a tattered woman through the door. One of his larger-than-life hands has both of hers clamped in its grip. Her frail body struggles against his single arm, holding her easily in control. The room freezes and each person sitting at the many tables snaps their heads towards the action. The calm music dies down but does not go silent. No one moves to help as the woman, practically a girl, crashes to the ground in obvious discomfort. Even after the interruption fades, no one stands to help, suggest, or demand other treatment. Their eyes, however, do dilate with interest. The woman's pleading eyes silently whisper to each of them to do or say something. At the disgust of a few in the crowd, a few pale faces blush in response, but still no one moves. They whisper among themselves. The man holding the woman is bald and wears a fresh suit. He sticks his nose up in dominance, the look only a leader can try to convey. It makes most of the crowd uneasy, most shuffle around in their seats.
Who created this meatless bone bag? She's clueless, and whines as though I should care. I have the right mind to kill her, maker, for the migraine she's given me.
He rubs his temple with a free hand.
My right-hand guy over here.
He narrows his eyes and sticks a thumb up at the man standing next to him.
For now. Can't find any information in her mind.
He finished loudly as he walks up the steps of the small stage, dragging the woman with him. The large man close by follows him, stopping next to him on stage, crossing his arms. When no one confesses, his eyes scan the room looking for a culprit to react. A few people in plain casual clothes sit at the same table, but most of the room is in freshly pressed and expensive garb. Some squirm in their seats when the leader's eyes land on them, but most are stoic, feeling this gaze many times before. The bald man snickers, targeting the man next to him.
You can't call yourself the mind guy, if you can't back it up, can you, Paul? Hey Zook, is this one of yours?
A man sitting at a perimeter table alone, the way he likes it, combs his fingers through his dark slicked back hair as he smirks. He doesn't admit to anything, so the boss continues with a smile on his face.
Well, she's a wimp and doesn't know recent stuff, so I bet you did make this scrawny twig of a woman, messed with her head, and left her walking around. She is your type. Did you do this to irritate me?
He looks the woman up and down, mockingly choosing a cut of meat he wanted the butcher to slice off for him, sneering at the butcher as though he is being insulted. The woman tries to pull her hands loose, but his grip tightens. Her cheeks redden and her eyes moisten as she barely holds back tears. A whimper escapes her lips, searching the crowd for someone, anyone to help.
You're hurting me.
She says, trying not to defy the man standing over her. Dominance flares in his sharp gaze and his upper lip rises. She says in a subordinate tone.
I'm not a wimp.
His grip holds strong, nearly dislocating her shoulder as she tries to pull away again. He callously speaks to her.
Yes, madam, in this room, you are most certainly a wimp. Look at these little twigs you call arms.
He says this, wiggling her arms in his hand and chuckling to the rest of the crowd. Looking back up to talk to the rest, he calls out.
She has hunted at least once without realizing what she is doing. Luckily for her, she wasn't caught, or we would have killed her and been done with it.
His words and cold smile conveyed the disdain he had for the woman for whatever unknown reason to most of them. Comp Tai is in his element and the rest of them didn't usually see this side of him.
She's probably been fed too. We aren't thinking she has kills under her belt yet, but we can't tell with the distortion going on in her head. She is probably recently changed, she has at least a few days in her, but we also can't tell how long it has been. Her aura is full of confusion, unless she's good at faking it. She's taking all this news pretty well though, she hasn't freaked out yet. Zook, what do you have to say for yourself?
A man sitting at the perimeter table, claiming the nickname Zook, with a long beige trench coat and nothing else of note, looks up at the man with condescension in his voice. Very funny, Mr. Comp Tai, I didn't make her or any others, I haven't in decades, maybe even a century by now. What year is it? He gets a few chuckles and giggles around the room and Comp Tai's eyes narrow, seeming to be upset that the speaker got a few placating reactions, when he did not. The woman looks up at that man sitting alone with wide eyes at such a statement. The man on center stage smiles at him.
Mr. Comp Tai, he says, finally someone with some respect. Everyone else keeps calling me Tyler, or boss. I wonder that about you, do you get bored with them or something? Whatever, don't care, the city needs your expertise.
Zookale tells others his name as his nickname, Z or Zook to his peers, none of them yet to know his true name as far as he has been able to find out. He isn't sure if there is danger for others to know his real name. There was some danger in the old days, now it is all hidden in the possible magics. He audibly breathes in, and out, a heavy sigh, purposely making an effort doing so. Well then, I believe I deserve a minor favor for this sort of thing. What do you say, record keeper? A woman sitting in a computer chair below the stage to the side perks up. She jumps into action on a laptop on a small table that is to the side of the stage, opens it, and waits for her orders. Her hands click around on the mouse and hover over the keyboard for edits. Tyler says.
You wish. It's worth a basic, maybe, but not a minor favor. Nevertheless, find out what you can, about this new unclaimed child.
Zook responds with a raised eyebrow. Well, how many times have I dug into people's minds for this city? There is that mayor's kid who would have been killed before I stepped in, now he owes us a favor. The brat cop that deserved more than he got. There is that ghoul hunter pack that surprised us that one time, we took them for city security even though they wanted to bleed us dry, then fry us. Nearly a minute passes with the two speakers, looking at each other trying to gauge the negotiation, and what it entails. Zook isn't getting much headway in the situation though, as Tyler's face is stoic throughout the offer. Understood, basic favor then. Tyler smiles, bares his fangs, and answers back.
I knew we could come to an arrangement.
Zook asks a final question to the boss. You did find out if she is dangerous, didn't you? She doesn't have a bunch of hidden power to beat my ass, she would have used it on you? Paul pipes up with his contribution to the conversation.
If she does have the capability for anything, she would have shown it not long ago. She's harmless.
Zook nods and calls to the woman, still reeling from the situation, looking at everyone who has spoken in this new world, and she barely understands the language. Hey, kid, come on, let's go. We have a lot to talk about. The brute on stage finally releases her arms and she lets them drop to her sides for a couple of seconds, then raises them to rub them in relief in each hand. She flops her legs off the edge of the stage, then hops off, and walks towards the mystery man in a beige trench coat. It is the only notable thing about the man. Dozens of eyes watch her carefully, and she feels those eyes boring into her soul. They all are eyeing her, choosing a piece they want to rip off to take a bite. She walks to the middle of the room. So intently does she feel their stares, that she isn't paying attention to where she is going and trips over a chair leg as she gets closer. No one laughs at her. The room is in a somber mood to not belittle her at this point. She stumbles and falls just before she gets to the man who is waiting for her. He didn't kneel down to help her, he didn't ask if she is okay. Deflecting their attention, he calls to the rest. What? None of you have seen a simpleton before. Stop looking at the new dull thing in the room and go on about your night. Most of them turn away, whispering to each other. She gets up slowly, rubbing her wrists at first, then rolling her shoulders, which are in pain from the mistreatment. She whispers to him gruffly, as she gets closer.
I'm 30 years old, and my name is Tina.
Zook whispers back. No one cares, kid. Just come with me, keep up. Don't fall behind, someone might kill you for fun. He spins and walks with a smile towards the exit, doubting anyone would touch the woman. She speeds up to catch up to his large stride, as they both have everyone's attention whether they were pretending or not. She expects someone to pounce on them at any second. Yet someone did pounce. Just not at them. A gasp and a groan of pain behind them caused them to whirl around. The crowd also turns their heads towards the noise. Tyler Compton, the bald, strong, and steady man still on stage, has a piece of wood sticking out from his chest. His hands shake as he touches it. Blood soaks into his nice white shirt. A woman appears behind him with a smile. The man standing next to him on stage moves to help his boss, but someone else appears out of nowhere, feet in front of him. The appearing man shoves a large, sharpened table leg into his chest. The blow slams the guard to the ground with such force that his legs buckle and the wood of the stage slightly cracks. Both of the men collapse to the floor at about the same time. A tall, lithe, and dignified woman takes center stage. She stands over the gorilla in man form, looking prominent and glorious, soaking up everyone's attention. Growls come from around the room, deep and rumbling, as though a pack of wolves has just seen new prey. Some men and women stand from their chairs, but think of it for a few seconds and slowly sit back down. She proclaims softly, in a loving tone, but loud enough for the room to hear.
I've decided to become boss of the city. I have the influence, and friends too. Stake my claim.
She says with a half smile across her lips, the pun that isn't missed by anyone in the crowd.
Does anyone object?
There were some murmurs whispered around the room, but no one stood to speak their mind.
This old tiresome bully might still have some use to me. I won't kill him yet. Just let me know if you need him. For now, I have already spoken with the investigator, and the record keeper will stay as well, unless you'd rather quit.
The woman sitting on a computer shakes her head slowly, and clicks around more on the laptop, recording everything. The two men laying on stage are dragged to a side door, and outside. The woman walks to the middle of the stage with her head held high and answers a few other questions regarding the change in management. Tina at Zook's side gasps lightly as her eyes haven't left the two being dragged along the floor until they are fully dragged out through the side door. A few eyes glance her way. Zook asks the woman now on stage, "Can I expect that my favor request is upheld?" As though nothing else is strange or different in the room. The woman calls back.
You made the deal with him, so we'll have to talk about it later. We can see how generous I feel whatever night that might be. Record keeper, track his request, and we will be speaking of it further, time permitting.
The woman at the computer nods and types on it further, keeping a record of the night's activities. Pulling at his arm slightly, Tina whispers to Z asking.
What just happened?
He looks at her, with a questioning wrinkled forehead and nose, as though she just asked whether he knew. If untamed cats and dogs had sex in the wild, in this context. Seconds later, comprehension dawns on his face, it transforms from a cringe to a half smile. Ah, the youth, come on kid. He whispers the moniker to Tina once again. She scoffs and follows as a few people from further away in the room giggle. Zook takes a quick glimpse over his shoulder at the group, and continues on his way out the back main entrance, away from the dismal scene. Tina follows this beige coat to a large town car in the parking lot, and a man is standing outside the driver's door, smoking a cigarette. Other drivers stand outside of car doors as well, some in small groups talking, some just sitting in the cars listening to other things. The mystery man in beige calls. Hey bud, we are leaving early, with a guest. We will be taking the usual extra precautions. She'll be facing me, passenger's side. The man promptly puts out his smoke, and hits the unlock button on the car, allowing them all to get in. An audiobook is speaking loudly, through a window to be heard. The driver opens his door and sits down, turning the audiobook off due to the company. Zook opens one of the doors to show Tina his fancy black car with a white top. The windows are highly tinted, making it a surprise when she is able to see inside. He lets her in first, to a town car with a large-sized back. It is a small limousine, custom-made, with 2 back row seats facing each other. Leg room is between them, enough to fit a pair of shoes on each side with a bit more to spare. There is a small drinking bar on one side and deep cup holders on both sides. They all get in. Zook calls up to the driver to get going after all are set. The driver does something at the front dashboard, and Tina is surprised by a quiet clunk, as a customized bear trap snaps in, on the seats next to them, 3 prongs on the bottom and 3 on the top, sticking out sharply, which would hurt anyone sitting there. There is also another noise behind her, another trap snaps out at the front passenger's seat. Zook smirks, answering her unasked question as she looks at him with it on the tip of her tongue. He even surprises me with it sometimes. She looks at the man in beige, with squinting eyes and wrinkled forehead.
So, that is why there are these strange holes in the back of my seat? Is that same thing meant for me?
He only smiles, saying, "Precautions," as they drive out onto the road, and the driver gets out into the little late-night traffic. The mystery of the woman's transformation has Zook feeling uneasy. In his years of experiences, this one is fairly new. He has not heard it all? Apparently. He has little idea what is in store for them. 2. Tina. The two sit in the back section of Zook's car, watching each other for the first minute of the ride. She looks out the window as they pass parts of the city. They size each other up. He sees a middle-aged woman. Her clothes were too large for her, old and unwashed. Her tennis shoes look too big for her feet. He wonders if it is a new fad these days. He wouldn't know. Perhaps she is just homeless. There are plenty of those around, and this is how they usually look. She sees an older man, a beige trench coat, nothing else, no tattoo that she is able to see, no scar on his face, no facial hairstyle. He is plain and boring. With nothing else to see, she looks outside of the window. Tina looks awake, but Zook knows that will change soon. She glances back at him. He smiles at her from across the median of the town car. He then pulls out a small device, which extends larger, and puts it on the bar between them, as a small red light shines. "So kid, you have gotten yourself into a bit of a mess, haven't you?" Zook smiles, as they are driven far from the gathering of strange people, and away from Tina's first strange dealings with them. She scoffs at his juvenile question. She feels the smooth road they travel in the large car, the liquid swishes in the bottles in the auto bar, and the seat is comfortable considering a bear trap is inches from her back. Zook slightly nods his head. That little gadget is so that no one can hear us as we chat if they are listening in. So, here it comes, out with it. He does a come hither gesture, waving a hand to entice her to start. She thought he needs to be a much more sexy guy to pull off that look, but Tina snaps back with questions.
I just want to know what the hell is going on, what is happening to me, and why the hell was I roughed up and brought to that weird group of people who were staring at me as though they were undressing me with their eyes.
Zook smiles and Tina lets it flow out of her.
What just happened back there? Why am I like this? Why am I so hungry? Why did you refer to decades and centuries? How is everyone so calm with the murder of that boss guy? Why can't I remember what's happened to me recently? Have I forgotten something important? Did things magically happen to me that can't be explained?
Many more questions come to Tina as they are being driven down the road. Zook straightens out his beige trench coat in the seat and lets her ask her questions and keeps his own counsel to answer them all when she finishes. When she stops with her questions, he puts his hands on his head and sighs yet again. I'm not getting paid enough for this. So, kid, are you telling me you don't know what you are yet?
Of course I know what I am. I'm 30 years old, so stop calling me kid. I'm not an idiot. I become a vampire. I just want to hear you say it. I've seen the movies and know the stories. Hell, if I know why or who made me this way, certainly no one asked. I mean, it is kind of cool, other than the no sun thing. I didn't get out much, anyway. I didn't know drinking blood would be so easy to get used to. It has the fun of sex, but with anybody, and I'm having it for once. I don't eat anymore, but I guess the blood covers it, but I barely know how much of it works.
She is rambling again, and her car companion lets her talk. Zook begins again. Very well, 30-year-old Tina. My name is Zook. Most of the people around the city call me that or Z. It works for me. The name isn't so strange when I was younger where I grew up, but now the nickname works. I might not look it, but I'm old, older than you, older than some of the other vampires in the gathering. But don't kid yourself, we are not immortal. We live a very long time if no one decides to end that naturally, multiple holes, and removed body parts. Lots of bullets can kill us, knives, and swords hurt more, and fire and sunlight certainly should be avoided. Few of us are ever asked if we would prefer to become a vampire, if the mortal coil we live on is enough, it just happens. Think how absurd that might be, someone asking you if they can drink all of your blood and make you one of them so that you can be stronger, stay up all night, and live inexpensively. Tina sticks up a finger to get him to stop, he glares at her to let him continue, she puts her finger back down and sits back. Nope, hush, an adult is talking. You'll get used to the drinking, or you'll have a nervous breakdown. Blood hunting, get blood from any animal, obviously including humans. We call because there are so many people, but we don't always have to kill and are almost at the top of the food chain. Some of us are good enough with animal blood, and you might start with that first, but human blood is so different. You'll know the difference, eventually. There are 7 billion people out there, we do a service for nature. You can drink animal blood if you become fast enough to catch them, or you can buy it from some slaughterhouses or from hunters pretty cheaply if you get a good one that doesn't ask questions. You can exist that way, but it isn't as fun as humans, and the taste just isn't right, especially if they are big on alcohol, or other drugs, which is pretty fun too. He maniacally massaged his hands together, imagining his next hunt. Then, he continues. When it comes to us, when this happens, we have some rules we most often follow when we create a vampire like yourself. In my organization's case, throughout most of the world, we usually take the men or women and direct them around. We show them the ropes, and teach them how to exist. Show you what you can and can't do, and the limitations of most situations. Some other organizations around the rest of the world are not as forgiving, they do some very odd things with people as well, but we don't need to get into that. You can't remember what has happened to you, and I'm not the same type of vampire you've read about or have seen in the movies. I am pretty good at dealing with people, and even animals, so I sometimes help out. Many of the vampires are bigger on speed and strength, me, not so much. I can handle myself in a fight, not as much as some of them in there, but I'm better with people. Most of us use the blood we consume to fuel our powers or our bodies. I save the blood I consume more for waking up for the night and use my will to do things I need. In that case, I don't need to hunt as often. It all depends on how you look at death. Zook smirks at his joke, but Tina didn't catch it. He realizes he will need to talk slower for her to get his amazing humor, or she is too modern or ditzy. He shakes his head thinking, kids these days. He lets her stop him and she asks,
So what, you read people's minds or charm people with your piercing gaze? Don't you have to be hot for that?
He smirked at her jab right back and nodded at her insult right back at him. She keeps going.
That is the stupid stuff about being a vampire. Why can't you fly, or do cooler stuff with your mind, telekinesis, or turn into a bat? That is always cooler. How about turning into mist and going under doors?
He combs his fingers through his hair again. Calm down, kid. Some can read minds, I've been working on that ability but it is pretty advanced. Next, some of us use the power of the blood to make it impossible to be seen or noticed, but if we affect the area around us, then they can be seen again. Being stabbed, attacking someone, tripping on a toy or a cord will disrupt it. Using these traps in my car helps me survive longer. The blood we take allows us to fuel our powers and wake up for the night. If you use too much over a night for whatever reason and don't take more, you will either not wake up, or wake up thirsty and crazy, letting your beast take over. It is the vampiric spirit in your body, it wakes up and more often than anything gets you killed. Not from other people, but from people like me investigating it or the bosses back there, or other beings who notice and keep watch of that sort of thing. If you are lucky, you'll just kill and possibly drain someone you are with, or close to. Your beast when it takes over is stronger than you and hungry. Most of us can't easily control it. Most of us can't fly by ourselves or turn into bats, but some of us can, when the power is learned. Zook put a finger to his droopy chin, thinking about what to still go over. He continued. There are several blood powers that we can learn. It is either learned genetically, through the blood we have when we were created as a certain type of vampire, or we can usually learn different ones from others. That usually is at a hefty price of either blood, money, or favors. When you get the swing of the different blood powers, you'll know what blood family you're in. Tina tapped on the car floor with her shoes, thinking of her own questions.
What is this about favors? You and that last boss guy talked about them.
He answered. Favors are deals we track. We do a deal, share abilities, save each other's life, sell them for cash, and we earn favors we can later cash in. They go on urgency, agreed between few involved, ranging in importance from basic, to minor, to major, to life. You might guess the urgency. Next question from her.
So, what are the different things we can do with blood powers?
Zook nods while he answers. Dozens of different things, and some are not well known to me. The obvious things are increasing one's strength, toughness, or speed. Blood magic is known to the magicians, they learn different things, but I don't know many of those. They keep those secrets because it is one of their biggest benefits. If they allow that to spread around too much, their domination in the field will weaken, so they don't just want to keep it secret, they will often kill those who aren't of their blood family who learns it in some way.
Sheesh, that is pretty harsh.
You have no idea. So, there are other things, turning into animals, dogs, wolves, and bats, those are known by some, but not many. Some can sleep in the ground with a certain power that allows them to flow into the ground as though it is water, and they sleep if caught out in the open for a day. Can use it to hide from being chased. That certainly isn't as well kept a secret, but it just isn't well sought after other than the rest. Mind and feeling manipulation are pretty well known, forcing humans and more to do what we want.
Wait, isn't that about the same thing?
No, with mind manipulation, like your problem, we can change what people remember. With feeling manipulation, we can make someone not care if they remember something or not. I can tell your brain to remember or forget something, but I can't tell you that we are friends, and you just are that way. Feeling manipulation allows someone to trust or fear you. Tina shivers.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Zook capitulates with her. Sure, it can be rough, but you can do it right back, so make friends who can do that sort of stuff, and if someone messes with you, then another can help you figure it out. Or you just get upset at it all, freak out, and greet the sun as it rises. It isn't a pretty sight, and it would be extremely painful for a few seconds. He continues with a few other blood powers he hadn't yet gone over. There are a few more I know of: the blood power to heighten our senses, sight to see far away, or details, increase smell to smell blood or perfume or cologne if you so choose. See the aura of a person, to tell if they are someone special like us, or if someone is angry. We can also tell if someone is lying to us. It is nice to know. The different abilities pertaining to the heightened senses also contradict the blood powers to hide from others. It isn't just invisibility, but more of a misdirection, so someone isn't seeing or hearing you. Being able to feel a psychic vibe from objects can be handy as well. I can find evidence, or key important things in a crime scene if the cops let me check around, but it also is to help on the job if the cops aren't around. Some have the power to increase their fingers to the size of claws. They hurt a lot, and healing that damage takes a lot of blood and time. There are many options. Sadly, there isn't a menu you can pick from. If something interests you, you can ask around, or see if someone can give you other hints. Some you can just learn over time if it is in your blood family. Since we do not know who your maker is, that is part of your mystery. The car bounces as it goes over a speed bump as Tina asks.
Are there anything more modern? Talking with computers, or reaching through telephones?
He shrugs. Not that I know of, but I can talk to animals. If I wanted to, I could become a pet psychic. There is some money in that, but I can't be able to be too accurate or get famous. That sort of stuff would draw too much attention. Tina licked her sharp, extended teeth, getting used to them near her tongue.
So what about things that want to hurt us? Can humans, or other things?
Zook answers, nodding. Oh yes, there are humans out there that hunt us for a few reasons. Usually it is revenge. In the old days I hear it is a religious thing, but werewolves, magicians, the real mortal kind, not vampiric ones, other vampires. There are plenty out here we are careful about. Her chin lifts towards the driver.
So, the driver up there has heard everything apparently. Who's he? Is he a vampire too?
He's Bud, that's all he goes by design. She hears Bud's deep voice from the driver's seat. He nodded to the side, still watching the road.
Ma'am.
Zook keeps going. That is not his name, but he doesn't know more than that, because that helps us both. His name is something else, but other vampires or supernatural beings use that sort of thing against him, or me. He's not one of us, he is a ghoul. He gets some of my blood over time, and he can live longer, and be stronger and do other things. He also likes me more because of it. Do you live in the area? Tina answers, shaking her head to remember the flood of info.
Yeah, I think I've lived in the area for a long while. I can't remember much of what was happening for me a while ago though. What is happening around here? The men and women back there, why were they so snooty and calm when the boss guy is stabbed in the chest?
Yeah, kid.
Stop that.
She says, tired of the nickname. Zook smiles with a gleam in his eyes. When you prove yourself to deserve it, 30-year-old Tina. They are snooty, because they consider themselves better than you. The money in that room could buy Alaska, all homes, businesses, and apartments in it, and boot everyone out to make it a vampire's paradise. In this case, the woman who struck the old boss owns companies and has a bunch of money. She will be handling us as a group here, and she is pretty good with humans, so I won't do as much with her as I did with old management. Tina interrupts for a second.
Are you upset about that? Will you lose out on anything?
Not really, he was a brute, kind of a bully. Those tend to be the boss sometimes with an iron fist, but the woman who has taken the job as an artist, she is Panteri's aunt, and she is one of the decent ones if not a little quirky. You'll get used to these sorts of changes, or you'll have a nervous breakdown. That will be on you.
You say that so often, and so casually, I don't like it.
Well, it happens, just trying to prepare you for it. I didn't make you one of us, so it isn't on me. None of us get asked if we want to. Just do what is asked of you by them if you can and play nice. Oh, and the staking, they aren't dead yet, they are mostly dead though, making them slightly alive. You know the only thing you can do with people who are all dead? She paints a smile on her face, but it doesn't reach her eyes.
What? Pull out the stake.
Zook replies, oh my, kids these days, you go through their clothes and look for loose change. He shakes his head and scoffs that she does not get the reference. So, the wooden stake through the heart needs to be well placed, and if it works, is more of a paralyzing and not full death, but of course, your head could be separated when you go limp, so try to be careful with toothpicks. You were probably the youngest person in that previous room. I'm not truly sure how old everyone is, and the person who made you is in pretty big trouble. I guess we can get to that sort of stuff. Tina scoffs. Zook replies, oh my, kids these days. No, you go through their clothes and look for loose change. He shakes his head and scoffs that she does not get the reference. So, the wooden stake through the heart needs to be well placed, and if it works, is more of a paralyzing and not full death, but of course, your head could be separated when you go limp, so try to be careful with toothpicks. You were probably the youngest person in that previous room. I'm not truly sure how old everyone is, and the person who made you is in pretty big trouble. I guess we can get to that sort of stuff. Tina scoffs.
I told that guy back there that I don't know who did this to me. I can't remember what happened to me. I barely know what day it is.
Zook gestures to the driver. Hey bud, we'll take the extra precaution tonight, take us to the mall, then around the usual parking lots till about an hour till sunrise, then home.
Got it, boss.
Bud replies in his deep monotone. Zook continues answering Tina. You told them that you don't know who made you. I am here to find out who made you. It is one of the things I do. They talk about things more through the night, getting earlier in the morning. One of the important things they go over is what Zook calls the universal rules. Humans can't know of us, showing off will get you, and them, killed. Often by one of us. No experimenting on them and leaving them out in the open, no ripping them in half, leaving them in places where they can be found, and bending them in incorrect places. There is a reason we've been around for centuries without notice. It is all rumor and mystery. Get this through your thick skull, don't get caught. The rest aren't as important, we'll just go over them really quick. It is getting closer to sunrise, and each of them tires of the chat. Near sunrise, the car pulls up to a large home neighborhood, trimmed trees, garages, and white picket fences. It looks too normal. Zook watches her eyelids get heavy. He whispers, I know you're getting tired, don't worry, we're at my home. He uses an old-fashioned roll-up window part of the door. This has covered the inside of the window with a hard plastic covering. Then, He does the same for the other side of the car. We will drive into the garage just before sunrise, and Bud will have us brought into the house, into a safe area for the day, then we can speak tonight. Hina's eyes pop open, doing her best to stay awake. She worries what his plans are with her. Her voice is shaky as she asks,
Wait, aren't we speaking already? Are you sure they can all be trusted? What if any part of the sun touches us? When I've been knocked out during the day, I always sleep through it, never toss and turn, or have to wake up to use the restroom. How will we be safe? Where will we sleep? What do I do about work?
Zook's eyes go wide at how fast Tina rambles on. He lets out a little sigh when she finishes. Don't worry, kid, I've done this dozens of times. There will be another of my friends to help Bud get us out of here. The walk from the garage to the safe place is completely away from the windows, and they wouldn't hurt me, or you. We'll talk more tonight. Hina doesn't enjoy the prospect of relying on him, but for some reason, she trusts him. He could have killed her already if he wanted to. The seats were comfortable, as she continues to get more and more tired. The last thing she remembers before passing out is worrying what will happen during the day. That day, she dreams of being stuck in a small box. The feeling around her is wood, and it is dark. She calls out for help, has no room to pry the box open, but she tries anyway. It is bolted down and won't budge. Lifting her knees, she tries harder, still won't budge. Using her fists, she punches up and down against the bottom and top of the box, calling out for help. No one answers.
Three. Another captive. A different captive trapped in their nightmare. Where am I? I cannot speak, my mouth is closed. It is dark, and I can't open my eyes. Something keeps them closed. It feels as though it is that crust over your eyes when you have slept for way too long. I can't move anything in my body, it is all numb, and I can barely feel anything. I am uncomfortable, my head feels fuzzy, but not a fun fuzzy. I have felt that fun fuzzy plenty of times before, that one night, and then that one party after that. I couldn't walk straight for a week. This is more a drugged haze, wanting to sit around and do nothing but imagine. I haven't felt this sort of thing before. Last I remember, I was jogging through the woods. I don't often jog through the woods. I'm more of a city person. All the different noises, the smell of pizza and beer at all hours of the day or night, keep my spirit awake. Last thing I remember, I was alone in the woods. No, I was with someone. Who? Oh, friend, we are on a vacation from the city. We wanted to get back to our natural roots, free-spirited, walking in the cold air. It is breezy, a bit cool for some, but my body runs warm. Jerking my arms out, I feel someone clamping them down, which makes it worse. I flail around, and get nothing. Someone's grip is iron, no worse. I press out to get loose again, and wail. Grunts pass my lips as I moan. The clamps, or handcuffs, whatever they are burning my wrists, rubbing against them often. I try to smell, but my nose hurts, stuffy as though I took a deep breath in a field of flowers, or I have a cold. I don't get colds. I try to ask someone for tissues, but all I can get out of my mouth is a gurgling sound. Unclogged nose gunk drips down my nose, gross, but I can't wipe it away. I hear a deep voice giggling, someone I don't know is near. I can't recognize anything else going on. I'm in a strange place, sort of small, but there is fresher air nearby, but I still can't see. It isn't that I can't move, there are many braces on me. Someone went through a lot of trouble for all of this. Where is my friend? He was with me, now he isn't. I hope he can defend himself better than I can. I'm pissed but can't contain my feeling of helplessness. I wriggle, move, and try to force things off me, but not only do the clamps burn, but I have extra arms on me holding me down, and they are so strong. The feeling of discomfort changes but doesn't lighten. My body is numb to pain. I feel as though I've been drinking a lot of vodka without the fun part, but instead of my face being numb, it is everything else. Nails tingle and prod all around my body. Oh no, the pain is waking me up to keep my mind moving, and drugs are trying to get me to sleep again, but I can't let them. I wasn't walking, I was jogging, my friend and I. Hearing something strange nearby, my friend tripped, and I heard a loud tearing of flesh. I went back to look. He was in a bear trap, and two men were standing over him. One had a self-made metal bat. I remember a growl coming from the pit of my stomach. I had to help him, I needed to. Just before my jump, I felt a sharp pain in the back of my head, and again, I don't remember much till now. Why can I now remember my old friend with me, but before couldn't? Why can I no longer think of anything else? Jogging, trip, bear trap, 2 men above him with sword and bat, thunk on my head vibrating, so loud. All I can think about now is the trap set for me and my friend, over and over, not helping him, then being helpless here myself. All I can do is try to shed a tear, but can't even do that. Some tears are dripping through my nose, my head is so woozy. Whatever is making me sleep is wearing off. I remember again jogging through the forest alone. No, wait, I was with a friend. How do I keep forgetting I am with my old buddy? Wait, what is his name again? Jogging through the city, no forest, he tripped and I went over. Bear trap, sharp pain on the back of my head. I'm okay with one hit, but when I hit the ground, I see my friend, and he is moving his lips, trying to whisper. I can tell what he is trying to say, his mouth going up and down accusingly, saying,
You can't save me, you can't even save yourself.
I remember it happening again and again, but I am getting drowsy each time I hit the ground, but each time I see my friend in the same situation as me. I can hear him say it so much easier and clearer, almost as though I can hear his voice in my head.
You can't save me, you can't even save yourself.
Someone falls into a deeper, yet uneasy sleep.